Brother Brian, I'm going to start by making you a cocktail. All right? I'm going to walk you through it. I feel like you've been waiting for a long time for this.
You know,
it's been a bit.
Since the moment I met you, I've been waiting for you made me a drink. So I'm happy we're finally here.
We're finally here, brother. All right, I'm going to walk you through.
How'd you wait so long?
Well, I wanted the anticipation to be big.
It's always better.
So hopefully the actualization is going to get there. But I got some coconut puree in there. All right, I'm going to throw a little pineapple juice over top. So we're making a mocktail, but we're going to make it fit for a king, brother. We're going to add some orange bitters. All right, we're going to add a little bit of moxie into that. And I'm also going to throw in some ginger flavored sparkling water.
Beautiful.
Give it a little zing and a nice ginger taste. All right, we're going to go ahead and put that over top.
Moscow mules have been one of my favorites.
There you go, brother. You get it. You get
Gingered
it.
up, baby.
We're going to give this a little stir so nothing settles at the bottom. Mix all those flavors properly. There we go. All right, now I got some fresh basil here. I love herbs in drinks if they're done properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to torch these. All right. We're going to torch them because that's going to release some of the oils. And as you mentioned before, when you notice me torching these, all of a sudden you start to sense the aroma.
Oh,
right?
Totally.
The basil smell comes out. So that's what we want. And now what we're going to use is, this is going to be a stir stick. We're just going to fumigate, aromatize this drink with some basil essence, but not actually leave the big dangling basil in there.
Oh,
all right.
Delicious.
There you go. And then we're going to finish with a nice orange garnish. So a nice big wedge for you right down the middle so we can hang it well. There you are, my brother. But before I give it to you, you got to taste it, right? Got to make sure. Fit for a king. The first thing it tastes was basil.
I love it.
I'm hoping you find this as delicious as I just did. There you go, brother.
I have absolutely no doubt.
I've been looking forward to this conversation forever. You okay? You happy with that?
That's on point.
Perfect. That means
You
a lot.
make mocktails every day?
Every day. I'll be by your house, brother. Oh, I mean, you're local. You're right here in Scottsdale with me. I've been looking for this forever. Okay. But I want to, and I mentioned this before we started rolling, and I was going to do this, right? So I posted on social media, I think it was last week or the week before, about this, you being here with me at the bar. We're going to have this conversation. This is what I wrote. It's not to pump your tires. It's a legitimacy of how I feel about you since I met you 3, maybe 4 years ago. I said, Brian Bogert, he gets inside of you and feels where your pain is buried deeply. And in an age where every entrepreneur is a coach, every coach parades as a guru, Brian is the real deal. And I mean that with all my heart. And it's not to slight other people, because that's, you know me, that's not who I am. But every entrepreneur reaches a level of success, decides to become a coach.
Yeah.
And once you're in that coaching space, you eventually navigate your own mind into you're a guru. I've never seen you do that. And yet, in terms of legitimacy of coaching and mentoring professionals, I know you are in the top 1% of legitimate.
Thank you.
And I wonder, and you tell me, I have a thought, but I want to be led by you today. I have a feeling that your history, your childhood into adulthood is probably why there's such a modest, angelic energy that comes off of you. And that because of that, I think you told me once, heart surgeon without a knife. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
You get into the feels of people. Legitimate, you feel it.
I do.
The empathy, the compassion, you feel it. You know where it is. You understand the story behind it. You help people navigate away from it, heal through it. But again, I think sometimes, and I'm kind of all over the map with my own thoughts. I used to work in the mental performance industry. And because of that, I worked very closely with physical therapists.
Yep.
They had a standing joke, which was you can't help an athlete rehab from an ACL unless you've torn one yourself.
Yeah.
Because you need to know what it feels like. And I sometimes wonder if the greatest coaches and mentors are the ones who've experienced trauma of their own. I have no idea if that's true, but as I examine the space, the coaching space, I can't help but notice it seems to be true more and more.
I believe it to be the case in anything. I don't think you can teach from a position that you haven't experienced or done.
Fair.
Right? And yet at the same time, we see it so prevalently in the world where people teach from a place of intellectual understanding, which is what I would call knowledge.
Yeah.
And knowledge can be consumed, it can be delivered, it can be accessed, and frankly, we can access anything we want at our fingertips these days.
Yeah.
Knowledge is not the same thing as wisdom, right? Wisdom is two sides. It's the surrender to allow us to be the vehicles for whatever we need to be.
Yeah.
But it's also the pure understanding. And I don't know that without understanding, if we can really help people move forward with context, with nuance, with ownership, and in a way that it's not about following a script. Right?
I love the way you phrased that. Actually, I love the way you phrased all of that. But I'm going to key in on one thing you said. Perhaps too many coaches mentor from a place of intellectual understanding.
I think most people operate in life simply from an intellectual perspective, and the world, I think, conditions most of us to do so.
Sure.
But yet the majority of the resistance and interference we experience is a lack of alignment or congruence between our intellectual understanding and knowing and what our heart or our feelings know and feel.
Yeah.
Right? It's that 18-inch journey from the head to the heart. And this is why, right, so often we see, and I always say this, the world will never judge you based on your intent. The world will only ever judge you based on what your words, actions, and behaviors communicate, whether you're conscious to it or not.
Okay.
Right?
Go deeper on that, because there's a lot of brilliance in that, but I want to understand it better, because that was gorgeous.
Well, I mean, I can say it from my own experience. And to your first suggestion, yes, my whole arc is a big reason that I'm able to be who I am today in the way that I am.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is I'm not a different person than I was when I came into this world.
Okay.
And so it's, I think, the perspective, the grounding, the humility, and the forced experience in perspective in ways that I would not have had otherwise, that I think have allowed who I was, my natural gifts, my intuitions, the things that I've always had, to really be hyper-developed.
Yep.
But why I say that and where this whole idea of intent versus words, actions, and behaviors come from is from my own experience.
Okay.
Right? Most of my life, I have been very misunderstood. And we'll break down pieces of why or where it comes from and the stories around it. But just in the simplistic sense to address this, I've been largely misunderstood my whole life. I would suggest that there's still often that I could easily be misunderstood, but there's also less desire or need to feel like I have to justify, protect, or defend anything about who I am.
So the defense mechanisms to justify it all have come down substantially.
I don't think that they exist anymore.
Okay. Beautiful.
Now, and it's not to suggest that I'm not human and don't have moments that my cells don't react and activate in the moment.
Sure.
But in general, I think the removal of ego and that self-protection is real.
Yeah.
And the whole root of the whole concept of intent versus words, actions, and behaviors came from a real lived experience. There's a lot that goes into it, but my wife would ask me something as simple as this. Hey, honey, what do you want to do with the kids this weekend? My shame and anger filter would hear it this way. Hey, honey, you've not done enough to be a good husband and father here recently, so what are you going to do to make up for it this weekend?
I can relate to that.
By the way, I'm a husband and father first. I've said that for a long time. You better fucking believe I'm going to defend the shit out of that. You're saying I'm not a good husband and father. I'm a great husband and father. What do? I rattle off the 10 things I've done in the last few days to show her I'm a good husband and father, and now what have I done? I've created damage, right, in that relationship, and that wasn't even what she said. Right? And so what happens? Well, we all seek and desire 4 things. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel protected, and those are not the same thing. We all want to feel seen and understood, and we all want to feel connected. But the second we don't have these two, or we don't feel safe and protected, what do? We protect ourselves. Right? I teach it through the lens of what I call trash from people's past, which is the emotional triggers, behavioral patterns, environmental conditions that create a set of beliefs and cellular memory that activate in moments, and our lives only further validate it until we break it apart. Right? But what happens when we protect ourselves? If you imagine almost a 35-gallon black trash bag, you pick it up in front of you, right? Whether it's a networking event and everybody wants something from you instead of for you, and they're handing out business cards, whether it's going back to a family's house and for the holidays, and your dad, your aunt, your grandma know that you're going to feel a certain way, and they're going to make comments, and you start weeks out. Anytime we drop into a lower frequency energy, fear, shame, scarcity, defense, like any of it, control, perfectionism, it's a defensive mechanism. Performance is a defensive mechanism. It's to protect ourselves. By virtue, our nervous systems are hardwired to do that. Anticipate threat, risk, loss of life. 100 years ago, you cut your leg, you could die. But that's not our reality anymore. So what are we really reacting to? The nuances of emotions and feelings and energy that we don't understand. Or how our spouse looks at us, but it has nothing to do with our spouse and everything to do with how our dad looked at us when we loaded the dishwasher incorrectly at 8.
1,000,000% true.
Right? And so the truth of the matter is, the second we protect ourselves, we guarantee we will disconnect ourselves from who we are and what we want.
Yeah.
And we will guarantee that we will disconnect ourselves from being seen, understood, and connected at the deepest level.
Yeah.
And so this idea of intent versus words, actions, and behaviors, look, I got misclassified as arrogant, an asshole, egotistical, and yet all my heart ever wanted was to help people.
Yeah.
All my heart ever wanted what was best for other people.
Yeah.
I allowed emotional, financial extortion in my life and my business because my value was based on what I did, not who I was.
Yeah.
I learned to receive love, validation, and connection through performance, which means that it's always contingent upon what I do instead of who I am.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the layers of being able to deconstruct and really understand what's true to what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
Because it is the only thing that's real. It's the only thing that's authentic. 2 seconds ago is already in the past. It's already whatever our perspective was, however we've shadowed it and shaped it. And 2 seconds from now is all fabricated in the future. Right now, this is the only thing real. But the issue is most people can't actually be here in this moment, present enough to actually understand what is it they're protecting in the first place. Yeah. How are they disconnecting themselves through this? And being honest enough to recognize that real freedom is learning to not have to protect at all. Yeah. It's like the end of the 8 Mile when Eminem's like, I did grow up across the track, but he did shoot himself.
Tell these people something.
And then he drops the mic at the end, because when you can get yourself to a place where you know who you are, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, your heart, your intent, your soul, your desires, your boundaries, your value, your worth, delivered through whatever, and you can be unwavering in the environment, that's freedom. Because you have nothing to justify, protect, or defend about who you are, which also means you can remove that invisible filter that typically dilutes every piece of communication we have as humans.
Absolutely. You know, first of all, that was passionate and well delivered and gorgeous. The thing that I love most about what you just explained to us all, though, is how true it is scientifically and spiritually. It's a universal truth. You've shaped it in such a beautiful way that it's digestible, understandable, it makes sense. But as you were talking, I'm thinking to myself, laws of neurology. My nervous system doesn't believe you, it believes me.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you say, I'm still going to see it, hear it, experience it through the lens of my nervous system. And then I think back to Marcus Aurelius and Epicurus and various Stoics and Lao Tzu and Taoism. I'm rifling through these quotes that I know, nothing in life comes to us preordained as good or bad, but our perspective makes it so.
That's right.
And that was written 4,000 years ago.
It is universal truth. Yeah. And I mean, that's what it all comes down to, is if you don't feel like you're being misunderstood, or if you don't feel like you're being understood, analyze your words, actions, and behaviors. Yeah. If you don't feel like you're getting the answers that you want, ask better questions. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, it is the everything we need is already here, but we're also the only path through each and every one of these things. Because I can teach you all this concept. I can help you understand how to pattern and map the cells reacting in your body, to deconstruct how you're moving and think and process and reverse generational pattern. I can teach you all that. Mm-hmm. But if you can't catch it in the moment, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. Yeah. That's beautiful, man. It inspires me to want to ask, let's just pretend, I just met you and I've jumped in as a client of yours. I've chosen you as my mentor. I trust everything you're saying. There's a vibe and energy I feel very safe within. By the way, you also mentioned what we need in the order and sequence. You started with safety. Was safety first? Is that what you said? And most people don't know this. I'm not suggesting you're one of those most people, but Maslow has a number of hierarchies that people are not familiar with, but one of them is exactly the rendition you gave. And everything starts with safety. If I don't feel safe, all of a sudden I'm putting lens over top of lens over top of lens. True. You know what I mean?
But I mean, I say this loudly and proudly today because I've walked that walk. Sure. My wife and I have been together for 19 years. We hid from each other unconsciously for 14, thinking we loved each other, doing the best we absolutely could. Yeah. And she's only felt real emotional safety with me for just over 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, listen,
right? And it's not a coincidence that we have the best relationship, the deepest intimacy. And by the way, we're still human and figuring shit out. Yeah. And we have all these patterns, both from ourselves and the things that we brought into the relationship still 20 years ago, that we still react to in little moments if we're not careful. But that's also the truth, is intimacy doesn't exist without emotional safety. Right. Communication doesn't exist without emotional safety. Connection doesn't exist without emotional safety. Yeah. Any of it without the emotional safety is just surface level anyway. And anything that lacks depth doesn't really interest me, honestly.
Same. I'm not big on platitudes at all. And you know, I want to explain that for a second, because it might sound a little bit haughty, but in reality, the reason I'm not big on platitudes is I've learned through my own journeys and experiences that life is nuance. I am nuance. The way I think is nuance. My nervous system performs in a nuanced way.
Right.
And it's all interrelated, and it's all part of my path and the things I've experienced. And, you know, things I experienced catalyzed me into acting certain ways, and those actions caused me to feel guilty. And then I started feeling shame about those things. And now we're nuanced all over the place. So when I say I'm not big on platitudes, that's why. That's why, because I've learned.
It's because there's context and nuance to everything.
There is, yeah.
Everything, every situation, every interaction, every person.
Yeah.
And it's only when we get stuck in the fact that we forget that there's context and nuance in everything.
Yeah.
That we get rigid, we get divisive, we get defensive.
Yes.
Because then, to your point, we're existing in that binary world versus what really is. You know, I always say that people get stuck in either black or white, but the gift is almost always in the gray area.
Yeah, well said, well said. And I relate to everything so well to what you're saying. And by the way, I'm going to go back to where I was probably at this point 7 minutes ago, where I said, okay, I'm a brand new client. Didn't quite finish that sentence because we started rolling. But let me actually pick it up right here. You know, look, you know what I didn't know about myself? You know, I'm 52 years old. I didn't know that for 45 years I was an asshole. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I thought I was a strong man. I thought I was a direct man. I thought I was the kind of man who, if you didn't want to know the answer, don't ask me the fucking question, because I'll tell you the answer. And I wore that like a badge. You know what I mean? Listen, this is what men are. This is what men are supposed to be. You know, we've emasculated too far. I didn't know I was actually a dick. I had no idea. But then I started going back in time. And I'd love to get into a longer dialogue with you one day or today about the whole concept of repressed memory, because, you know, certain incidents started happening, and all of a sudden around 47 years old, pop. I started remembering things when I was a kid. Yeah. And I didn't believe them at first. And then I started realizing, because the emotion wave came with them, like, fuck, that was real. Yeah. I thought that was a dream I had when I was 28 years old. Anyways, long story short, I came to realize I actually was an asshole. But the reason I wasn't an asshole, the reason I was behaving like an asshole is because I was terrified and I was protecting myself. Because as a child, I was, you know, infracted upon. Yep. And I learned how to not allow myself to be infracted upon. And so now my entire essence and being is covered by this massive lens.
Which was all compensation in an attempt to create safety for yourself at a time that you didn't have it. It's the root of every single human challenge is at some point we learn behaviors in an attempt to keep ourselves safe. Perfectionism, control, making ourselves small, making ourselves big, right? All of these like destructive behaviors almost always are an attempt to create safety for oneself for any variety of reasons. Right. Yeah. Oh no.
Oh, you're good, bro.
Look at this. See, we're at a bar. I'm throwing stuff all over the place.
Listen,
you gave me a mocktail and you can't control. I'm already hammered off.
I just put a little tequila in there. I didn't tell you. No, I'm just joking.
But it's real.
It is real. And I want to pick up on something you said there, because I loved it. This is why platitudes don't excite me and nuance does. Because you said, you know, maybe there's a defense mechanism built in because you learned you had to make yourself bigger or you had to make yourself smaller. And as soon as you said that, I'm like, I had to make myself both at different times. So as a young child, I had to learn to read a room very quickly and know by instinct that I should shut up, not make a sound, and be as small as possible.
You had to read people to survive.
Yes. But then 3.5 hours later, I might have had to make myself bigger, because if I was too small, the same kind of punishment was going to come.
And my guess is with you, just in the time that I've known you, it's funny because you're like, I didn't know I was an asshole for 45 years. Yeah. Your heart was never an asshole.
No, never.
Right? Your intent was never an asshole, right? But your words, actions, and behaviors came out that way. And my guess is to your point on like we've overly emasculated in a lot of ways, you have, and since I've known you, and maybe this wasn't always the case, but I think it has been, you've always had a very healthy dynamic of both masculine and feminine energy.
I'm incredibly
And I have no doubt that though there were probably situations where your big man energy had an effect on women, more often than not, you were a protector, you were gentle, you were kind, you were empathetic, right? And the asshole came out when you were confronted facing other type A males.
100%.
And here's the truth that I learned. And I think you and I are the same in this way.
Sure.
My biggest and most difficult category of people to connect with for the majority of my life, not as much anymore, was exactly that.
Yeah.
High level, high performing, type A males.
Yeah.
Why? I've got a big fucking energy.
Yeah.
I have a big presence.
Yep. Yep.
I can't hide in most rooms, even if I don't talk. I've learned this now, but it took me a long time to accept that.
Sure.
But here's the reality. Big energy delivered through armor is confusing as fuck for people.
Yeah.
So what's really happening in those environments, my insecurity, because I believe I don't connect with these folks because I've been misunderstood by them so often in the past, causes me to have a defense that comes off probably a little egotistical, probably a little know-it-all, probably a little bit competitive in a way that they also look at and they're like, oh, I feel threat there. And because I don't understand the energy that I'm receiving, they go major alpha and I get cut out, right? And so then what happens? I fight, I defend, I do all these things, but you have always had big energy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You have a big heart, a big presence. Your frequency and vibration emanates way beyond you. And I believe that to be true even beyond this evolved state that you're in.
Yeah.
And so the asshole was really the protector.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No doubt.
that was just misunderstood.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'm going to substantiate something for you because the very first time I ever met you, because, you know, well, you met Carrie and myself at the same time, right? Same place, same time. And, you know, she's a very evolved thinker, a very evolved feeler. And I remember certain details of our very first conversation ever, but I don't remember the specifics. And you did come off as very big, energetically, loud. I wouldn't go as far as saying know-it-all. I never got that at all. The kind of person who, on a whim, I would say, I don't vibe with that guy. But there was something about you that it didn't scream wrong or bad or I can't energize with this guy. None of that was true. And I remember Carrie and I had a conversation about it because we were both like, if there's something about that guy I like, right? The energy beneath it all. So I'm saying that because, I remember what you're saying, how it comes off to some people, but then there's other people who kind of sneak through the back door of the energy, like, no, there's something really legit about this guy. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Because I mean, look, I've been an outlier my entire life. How do I say this properly? I've owned every room I've ever walked into by accident. And most of the time, I really wish I didn't because I don't like being center of attention at all, even a little bit. And when I feel like I'm center of attention, what do? I play into that hand. And now 2/3 of the people think I'm an arrogant prick.
Yeah.
None of which is my heart. You know what I mean? So I think I vibe with you on, without knowing it until today, probably on that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I felt. That's why I just reflected that because it's like, that's what I've always believed about you as well.
Sure.
Right.
There are days when my yin feminine energy is so much higher than my masculine.
Yeah. What level of intention do you have to put into understanding energetically how you show up in any environment?
That's a great question. So I'm going to answer it by saying this depends on what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm in an aligned mood, I recognize it immediately. If I'm not, I have to work for it, and I often don't bother. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
You know what plays a huge role for me on that? Fatigue.
Of course.
Yeah. If I'm tired.
That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
Because it impacts my capacity.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I'm operating on less capacity, I don't have the same amount of patience. I don't have the same ability to regulate. I don't have the same ability to like filter things.
Yeah.
It's more of a rawness at the nervous system level.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
So it's like that layer of filter, not protection, but like the buffer that exists in capacity.
Buffer is the exact
goes away when fatigue hits.
Yeah.
And that's also why when you live in a performance mode, the one thing that also got you all the attention, love, and connection is also the thing that actually makes you most vulnerable and most reactive and less aligned. Yeah. So it's like finding that integration.
It's bizarre. I think you and I are aligned on all of it, but you keep mentioning performance. I mean, a lot of my career has been working on the mental, emotional performance of elite athletes. And I have been the outlier in that industry as well. I don't ramp anybody up. I tone your nervous systems down.
Totally.
And I have to explain to coaches sometimes, like Olympic coaches, professional coaches. I'm like, listen, you don't understand. Her nervous system's over wrapped right now. I don't need her to be training right now and or ramping up for tomorrow's competition. I need her to take a cold shower and then grab some sleep. Like I need to tone down her nervous system. And it's been a bit of a climb to help coaches and athletes understand that, but I finally found a pocket where they get it now. It's about nervous system regulation. You know, if tomorrow, which is, let's just call it the World Championships, you know what it also is? It's Tuesday. So how about we just pretend it's Tuesday?
Right.
And we just let happen what happens, because I want your nervous system knowing it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh shit, this is the World Championships.
But the thing is muscle memory only works when you're not in a place to try to perform it.
Yeah, right. No, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's the other side of it is it's like, you know, when you've got a batter in the box, when you've got, you know, somebody getting ready to take a 3-point shot, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Shit, it could be a speaker who's worried about saying the right words.
100%.
Right? Like this concept of knowledge versus wisdom was something that took me a minute, but it came through my understanding with speaking.
Yeah.
Because I have a really weird, unique brain.
Yeah.
In the sense that I see patterns and I can retain stuff at a crazy level.
I believe that.
However, that doesn't mean I can always recall it.
Sure.
Right? Like if you and I've rebuilt multiple motors. I can do a bunch of stuff on cars. I don't say this with any ego. I've done it. If I get underneath the hood, I can do what I need to do.
Yeah.
I couldn't describe to you all the parts, how it all works. I can't teach that because I don't know it at that level. And if you were to ask me a question or quiz me, I might freeze up if I don't know the term. But that's also when I used to give a shit. Mm-hmm. Meaning I felt like I needed to know the word.
You had to justify it, right? Yeah.
And it's the same thing on stage. Like anxiety and anticipation show up in the body the same way.
Yeah.
I always used to think that I was anxious going on stage. Mm-hmm. The only time I was really anxious is if I was worried about the words I was going to say when I got on stage.
Say that again. They show up the same way?
Anxiety and anticipation show up in the body the same way. We feel them the same way.
And it's true. I'm playing it in my head right now.
So it's also the shift to understand. And so if I'm I've got to memorize this script and I've got to nail every single word and I need to remember it all, and I don't perform well like that. Yeah. That's why I used to believe I wasn't a good test taker.
Yeah.
Because if I was like in that mode where I had to recall the exact thing in that moment, and that's performative, that's not flow, right? And so for me, now that I know, I get an energy build every time before I take a keynote. I know the arc now. I've got a 48-hour window afterwards that I call the Valley of Despair. I don't do any analysis but like, here's the reality.
I don't like what I did.
Right.
Truly.
Well, because if people ask me right after I get off stage, like, how do you think you did? I'm like, I don't even talk about it for 48 hours.
Yeah.
I'm willing to listen what you think, but I don't want to reflect for myself because capacity. I'm fatigue and I'm empty.
I'm stealing that from you. As of right now.
But that's the point where it's like, okay, but when I can get on stage or I'm coaching with someone, again, the same thing with coaching. If I'm worried about being the guy that fixes it all, saying the right words, being the intellectual or the emotional leader in that room, making sure that they're getting their value, and I'm like working with that as my focus versus like, no, how do I just help them be the best fucking version of them?
Yeah.
And not worry about what words come out of me. Don't worry about being right. Don't worry about like if it's landing, right? Same thing on stage, because as soon as I can detach from that, that's when it shifts from knowledge to wisdom, because then the words are always there, just like I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I can flow. The words are always there. If I can trust and surrender and just allow, the words are always there, exactly how they need to be, and almost always they land. Yeah. It's only when I try to make it happen that I am in a protectionary mode and I disconnect myself from the flow. And it's the same thing in sports.
Did you happen to notice about 15 seconds ago, my face softened into a complete moment of clarity? And I'm going to tell you why right now. So I wrote on social media, every entrepreneur becomes a coach, every coach becomes a guru. But in that world, Brian is legit. You just explain why. And I want to unpack what I heard. What you said without saying these words are, I don't make it about me. I make it about the person I'm working with. It's not my system, my process, my method, my sequence, my order.
That's right.
It's about them. That right there, you said it without saying it, is exactly why I give you that legitimacy. Because everyone has a system and a process and a method. I respect it. I love it. It's important. Great. It's guide rails. It's guide rails.
Bingo.
So when I worked in elite sports performance, I used to beckon to coaches, you got to coach above the clipboard.
Yes.
It's not what you've prepared for them today. It's if that organism is prepared to receive it. Because if it's not, this doesn't matter.
Bingo.
My system for coaching God herself might have developed it for me. But if you're not in the position that day to receive it, who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. That's what makes you so legit. You've seen past all that. You know what I mean?
I think we have to.
Yeah,
right?
well,
I mean, every single mentor, every single coach, every single person I've admired, listened to, watched after, tried to model. I can't, nor do I want to become any of them.
Yeah, right.
But I can take pieces from each and every one of them and make them my own.
Yeah, sure.
And you said something profound earlier as well. Like, my packaging and the way that I communicate things in our frameworks are only to make it accessible to people.
Yeah.
And probably only to the people that will resonate with it in the way that I communicate it.
I love that you said
But at the same time, it's not mine.
Yeah.
You said it earlier, it's all universal truth.
Right.
And if you look at the top of the top in anything, it always comes down to the same fundamental universal laws, universal truths. The only difference is the packaging and the perspective that it's delivered through.
I couldn't agree more.
It's it.
Yeah.
And so nothing that I'm saying to you
Sure.
is revolutionary.
Yeah.
It's been talked about for 4,000 fucking years.
Yeah.
Right?
It has.
Right now, my ability to decipher it, see it, reflect it back to people, that's where I've got some unique abilities and gifts. My language, my experience makes it accessible to certain people because I communicate it in a way that others don't.
Yeah.
But it's the same concept.
It is.
And so
Yeah.
if I was
really
stuck
is.
on,
Yeah.
well, you got to fuck,
Yeah.
it's not mine.
Yeah. I love that you said that for so many reasons. You know, I want to reflect a few back to you right now. First of all, so this is misunderstood. We've talked about that. Every business coach on the planet hates me when they try to work with me because I live in the world of naivete according to them. But here's why. Here's my least favorite question in the world. Who's your demographic? My answer, the people who want to hear the story. The people who resonate with it, which is not the answer everyone wants. 35 plus male, this socioeconomic, but
You can't put people in a
you
box.
can't put people in a box. And that kind of begets the second part of this for me, which is we're all dealing with the same hand of cards. It's the story I tell about that hand that resonates with you, but not you.
Bingo.
It's the story you tell about those cards. So I love that you see it that way because it's true. It's true. It's fundamentally just is what it is. And that reminds me, you know, I often talk about this. I've been heavily influenced by Eastern philosophy. And I use the word influenced on purpose for two reasons. I've not become a sheep of it, but influence to me matters because, you know, influence can beget belief systems, which beget expectations. And I've tried to detach from the rest of the unconscious lineage and just allow Eastern philosophy like Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism to kind of wash over me. And you know, I think we're all DJs. I take what's useful. I disregard the rest.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's not useful. It's just not useful to me.
Or right now.
Today.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So one of the parts of Taoism I've always found historically so brilliant is the way Lao Tzu explains the Tao. What is the Tao? I can't tell you because you wouldn't understand.
Right.
Like it's there, but if you look for it, it's gone.
Immediately.
It's just there. And then he goes on, he breaks into this conversation of, you know, the immaturity and the arrogance of humans. He says, you think you're creating something. It's already created. Creation doesn't come to you, it comes through you. And I think that's the kind of stuff that actually, believe it or not, that one parable helped me change the balance of how much I felt like an outlier. If that makes sense.
It's the truth.
Because I'm like, you know what? He gets me.
But like, look at writer's block.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's typically only when they feel they need to perform for a deadline, for a meeting with their editor, for a launch date.
Yeah.
It's when it's under pressure, right? Almost all of it, which is self-imposed, right?
True,
But it's another performance block, right? And so it's like, I used to believe that I wasn't a creative person.
Yeah.
But it's because I didn't allow creativity to exist.
Yeah.
Right. And though I love that statement, what I do believe is you're right. We aren't really inventing or creating anything. What we are doing is we're refining whatever is in front of us in a way that we can package it in a way that the world can receive it. I don't care if it's a product. I don't care if it's a service. And that's, I think, what our roles are here is to figure out where do we uniquely have that ability in whatever subset of our world that we exist in to allow our unique value to exist. Yeah. And, you know, we haven't talked about anything with my backdrop, but I'll hit on a couple things that I think are important because you even said it as well. You know, we won't go super deep on it, but when I was 7, as you know, I was run over by a truck and my left arm was torn from my body, right? There's a longer story, but where I'll bring this down is a few things. I've always said that I'm only as good as my questions, and I've only understood here in the last few years why questions are so important to me. Yeah. It's because of all the times I wish somebody would have just asked, right? Probably 40, 50, 60% of the people in those years right after my injury, and still today, will just stare.
Yeah.
And when someone just stares, right? I wouldn't say that it's malicious by anybody really with intent.
I agree.
But what happens unconsciously and because of the lack of intention and effort is they end up writing your story for you without any opportunity for you to tell your own. That happened to me all the time. And then the other percentage of people who would come and ask questions, they'd come up and they'd say to me at 7 years old, as I'm cute and big energy that I've always had, what happened to you? Oh, I was run over by a truck and my arm was torn off. 99% of people after they pick their jaws up off the floor would pause and they'd turn to my parents for validation, which told me what? They didn't believe me.
Right.
They didn't believe the truth that I'm living and existing in right now. So now not only do most people don't even ask and they're writing my story for me, then these people are listening to me, giving me a chance to tell it and they don't believe me. And I'm starting to get conditioned early on. Nobody's ever going to believe me. Even in my own truth that I'm living and existing in.
It's a big lens.
And then those same people would view me through their lens of what they'd be capable of imaginary in my situation.
That's such a...
Immediately limiting me in every fucking thing that I was and wasn't going to be able to do for the rest of my life. And this was all real.
Wow.
But at the same time, I also remember my decision in the first 2 weeks I was in the hospital. I didn't know if I'd have my arm saved. I didn't know if I'd have it reattached. And I do remember at 7 feeling sorry for myself and wondering what life was going to look like. Right? What am I going to do? How am I going to move? What's this going to look like? Blah, 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 blah. Didn't know if my arm would be saved, but my life was. I could have died that day.
Sure.
I almost did. And there's a woman that I talk about often who saved it. And I'm grateful for that. But I'm in the ICU with families that are all saying, we're so sorry for what happened to you. We're so sorry. This was so traumatic. How can we help? Because my story is traumatic. It's not one you hear every day. It gets lots of attention in a way that, frankly, I don't know that it deserves. Because their kid would be laying in the hospital bed next to me with a terminal illness and didn't know if they were going to live for another 30 days. And so I remember, though, there have been multiple layers to our story, development, evolution, understanding. I mean, all of it. I made a decision that I wasn't going to get stuck by the things that had happened to me, but instead get moved by what I could do with them. And that drives a lot of what my focus is today, which is that I believe that moved people move people.
Say that again. I won't get...
I made the decision not to get stuck by the things that have happened to me, but instead get moved by what I can do with them. And I believe that moved people move people. So like we're on a mission to impact over 1 billion lives as quickly as we can, knowing that 99.9% of them are never going to know my name. They're never going to pay me $1. But if I impact 1,000 people to impact 1,000 people to impact 1,000 people, we're there. If I impact 10,000 people to impact 1,000 people to impact, we're there, right? It's the ripple effect of what I call collective impact. But to the whole point, like I have always considered myself one of the lucky ones. Right. And yet it did have a huge impact in my life. But part of the reason I think I have such an ability to recognize, see, and feel people's pain is because I was also in it for a long time. Right. When I shut off physical pain because it exceeded my ability to cope, I shut off mental pain, emotional pain, and spiritual pain for 25 years. I didn't feel emotion until I was 32. And then I had to learn how to feel again. I'm at 40 just now, still learning to cry because I had conditioned it all out years ago. Right. Not for any other reason. That's what the world told me to do and put on a smile and perform. But like through all these things, right, I also had a performance art, built a successful business, had a bank account full at age 27. I found myself empty. And so it's like all of these things I fully understand. But what I also understand is I know what it's like to be the only one in every room I walk into. And yet at the same time, I recognize the privilege I feel I have, not only to be in this country at this time in our world, but to be a white male in this country. And so though I can't understand what it's like to be a woman, I can't understand what it's like to be transgender, I can't understand what it's like to be a person of color, I do understand what it's like to be the only one in every room. And I view that as a responsibility that I carry everywhere I go. Because most people, if they're honest with themselves, will tell you that they've been for a lot of their life surrounded by people, yet still felt completely.
Oh my God, yes.
And that's what we're needing more than anything is connection at the deepest level.
Agreed. Oh, absolutely.
And that's how I try to live my life.
Listen, begrudgingly, I got to close this out, but I want to do 2 things first. Okay. Number one, because you're here in Scottsdale, which is perfect. I actually want to introduce our podcast sponsor. This is the reason I love these guys. This is a young couple in their mid to early 20s who came up with the idea of taking recycled alcohol bottles, shaping them, and then making candles out of them.
That's awesome.
So they're called desertcandleworks.com.
I love that.
And they sponsor this podcast. And I love them so much for the environmental responsibility, the ingenuity, the innovation, and their age. I love that young people are doing this. So we're very grateful to have them as a sponsor. And then I want to ask you one last question. I always say this whenever I ask questions of this ilk. I love being wrong. I love learning. So you tell me what you think. And it's based on the story you just told us. I don't like the word trauma. It's not because I deny trauma exists. It's because when we define it as trauma, and that's what it becomes in our nervous system, in our lenses, in our outlook, in our story. So I often call it something different because, and here's why, it's been my experience in the mentor space that I couldn't give it a quantification. Let's just pretend 80% or more of people who apply the word trauma to themselves have struggled seeing it any other way other than a negative that infringed upon them and now they are controlled by it. So close us out by talking me through your thoughts.
So as you would anticipate, there's multiple directions that I could and will go with this quickly and tightly.
Yeah.
I was around the healthcare world long enough and with enough children with illnesses that the patient complex or the forever patient complex, the victimization that can exist in there is very fucking real.
Yeah.
So I in no way want to minimize what you're saying in any way. I'm also a big believer that the label is for the person reading it, not for the person behind it.
Yeah, well said.
And I also am a believer that the unavoidable precursor to change is acceptance. And so until we can acknowledge and accept the current state of things, we cannot alter them.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
And so it's like, it's like not just laying it on the table in terms of true honesty.
Yeah.
To me, trauma in and of itself and the label of the word trauma in and of itself is not the issue. It's the relationship you have with trauma.
With
and the relationship,
or the word, both?
Both.
Gotcha.
Because I think I had an unhealthy relationship with pain for a lot of years, right? And pain was a motivator, right? I felt I needed to fight everything, when in reality, I was actually self-perpetuating my own levels of pain because of all of that interference on the inside.
Perfectly sense.
And so I am not of the type that's gonna, there's probably only one word that I genuinely am like on a mission to eradicate from our language, and it's the word should.
Okay.
And why? Because I think should is a shame-based word and it applies to whoever you are, whatever you're doing, you're not good enough. The second you wake up and say, I should have gotten up earlier, I should have eaten better, I should have
got
gotten
a
this.
performative context.
But shame also is the lowest registrable frequency on the scale, right? David Hawkins mapped it 0 to 700. Shame is at 20.
Yeah.
90% of the world between 100 and 150, which is anger and fear.
Yeah.
But the second you say should and shame and blame exists, growth and opportunity go out the window.
Yeah.
Trauma in and of itself, right? It's like saying sexual abuse is a bad term.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's something that happens to people.
Yeah.
It's something that people do to other people. And it's something that we need to understand, acknowledge, and heal through.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's very much about understanding, because again, it's not about me. It is, but it's bigger than me. It's about who I'm with.
Yeah.
It's about helping find the language that's going to land for the person that I'm helping in front of me. And sometimes trauma is the only way to have it surface.
Sure.
Sometimes you have to use different language or a different approach in it. And so to the point on context and nuance, I think it's really about the relationship both with trauma and with the word trauma.
Yeah.
And what does it mean? But that's also why I love conversation.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a right or a wrong thing.
Agreed.
You said, I'd love to be proven wrong. There's nothing to prove.
That's what's proven wrong.
No,
I like being wrong.
But my point is like, you can be completely 100% accurate in what you said to me, and we can expand the perspective situationally, right? It's contextual appropriateness.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had a guy on my podcast yesterday. If I just listen to the layer or the first layer of what people say, I'm missing everything.
Yeah.
It's what's behind the words and the understanding behind the words. So what I instead do is if I see someone respond or react in a way, or I feel their frequency drop, or I feel their pain ignite around a word, I'll even pause and say, what does the word trauma mean to you?
Exactly my point.
Define the word. It's not the word. It's the relationship. And so like this guy on my podcast, he said probably 3 or 4 things that if I'd accepted at the service, I'd be like, we are not fucking aligned.
Yeah.
Like this dude is not the dude that I want to be around, but he's crazy intellectual, crazy smart. And he doesn't get ego when ask questions to explore.
Yeah.
Right. So I would ask questions, how to have him better define a word, better define something he said. Help me understand, what does that mean to you? How does that show up? What are your actions and behavior support behind it?
Yeah.
Right. To me, it's easy for us to have a whole bunch of emotion, justification, defense, shame, even around a particular word. But yet that same word in our limited context of human language, even by definition in dictionaries, you and I could interpret completely differently.
Very true.
And so to me, it's less about the word. It's less about the interaction and the relationship.
Definition of. I completely agree. Yeah. Listen, as is going to be the case with everything we do here, people are going to seek you out. Where do they find you?
If you're on social media, you can find me at brianbogert.com. Or sorry, if you're on the web, you can find me at brianbogert.com. I'm at Bogert Brian on all channels, including YouTube.
Perfect.
If you want a single place to go to brianbogert.com/connect, and you'll get access to our podcasts, some of the AI products that we develop, newsletters, other ways to engage in our world, and ways to follow along. So that's probably the single point of contact.
We're going to put all of that in the show notes to make it easy for people just to click and
Beautiful.
leave you.
Beautiful.
Brother, you're amazing. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Love you much.